Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into a terrifying, real-life medical mystery unfolding right now on the high seas. We're going to break down the tragic timeline, the brutal biology of an invisible killer, and the mind-blowing atomic breakthroughs happening right now to actually stop it.
So what exactly connects a deadly 1993 medical anomaly, a microscopic pathogen that usually lurks in rural sheds, and a stranded luxury cruise ship? To unravel this, we really have to look at an ongoing outbreak aboard the MV Hondius. It's a vessel carrying 147 passengers and crew, and it's currently moored off the coast of Cabo Verde.
Part 1, Terror on the High Seas. Imagine a dream vacation, just turning into a total nightmare in a matter of days. The Hondius departed Ushuaia on April 1st. Just 5 days later, a passenger started showing flu-like symptoms. By April 11th, he was dead. As the ship crossed the Atlantic, this invisible killer essentially swept through the vessel, leading to desperate medical evacuations and, tragically, multiple fatalities.
Now, here's where the transmission chain gets truly alarming. The virus didn't just stop with Generation 1, that initial couple who were likely exposed back in Argentina before they even boarded. Shockingly, it jumped to Generation 2, infecting the ship's physician and a crew member. And then it hit Generation 3, actually taking down a flight attendant who had simply escorted a victim off a plane in Johannesburg. That kind of human-to-human jump, yeah, that is a massive red flag.
Section 2. Profiling a deadly virus. You see, hantavirus isn't just one single thing. It's a whole family of viruses, with 2 incredibly lethal branches. You've got the form found over in Europe and Asia, which attacks the kidneys, and has a fatality rate of up to 15%. But then you have hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, which is found in the Americas. It brutally attacks the lungs and the heart. The absolutely crucial point here is that the strain we are tracking on this ship belongs to that much deadlier American lineage, and it carries a staggering, terrifying fatality rate pushing 40%. It is just wild to think that this virus, which is primarily carried by deer mice, was completely unknown to American medicine until a massive, explosive outbreak in 1993. A cluster of young, completely healthy people in the Four Corners region of the U.S. suddenly died of acute respiratory failure. Virologists and health officials literally had to scramble to identify this entirely new threat, which we now know as the Sin Nombre strain.
Section 3. The Andes virus anomaly.
So that brings us to a massive puzzle. Almost all hantaviruses only spread directly from rodents to people. The classic exposure scenario is sweeping out a dusty, mouse-infested shed. So how on earth are we seeing generation after generation of human infection on a ship, miles and miles away from the nearest forest or field? It requires a very specific explanation.
Well, enter the Andes virus. Endemic to South America and carried by the long-tailed pygmy rice rat, this specific strain basically changes all the rules. It is uniquely capable of human-to-human transmission through close, prolonged contact. It can even be contagious before symptoms ever begin, which perfectly explains that terrifying transmission tree we were just talking about.
Let's dig into Section 4, How the Infection Strikes.
The truly terrifying reality here is how deceptive this disease is. The incubation period can hide the virus for up to 8 weeks. Once symptoms start, it just feels like a normal flu, fever, aches, nausea. But then it rapidly shifts gears. The virus literally attacks the lining of your small blood vessels, making them leak directly into the air spaces of your lungs. Within days, patients are essentially drowning in their own fluids as their cardiovascular system completely collapses.
And making matters so much worse, there is no approved vaccine, zero cure, because there's no antiviral drug that actually stops it. Survival essentially comes down to reaching an advanced intensive care unit in time. Medical teams can only provide supportive care, keeping the body functioning using mechanical ventilation or ECMO, machines that physically do the breathing for you while your immune system fights off the infection. Section 5, Prevention and Structural Defense. If you take away absolutely anything from this explainer, please let it be these exact CDC recommended steps, because honestly, a simple everyday act like sweeping a dry shed can be deadly. Hantavirus gets into your system when you breathe in contaminated dust, so never sweep or vacuum dry droppings. Always ventilate the space first, spray it down with a 10% bleach solution to kill the virus, wait 10 minutes, and then wipe it up wet while wearing an N95 mask. It's so simple, but it literally saves lives. But stepping back from individual actions, we've got to look at the global public health response.
Recent administrative changes really highlight the shifting landscape of how global and domestic disease tracking is structurally managed today. The CDC's workforce was recently reduced by about 2,400 employees, which impacted divisions like the vessel sanitation program that inspects cruise ships. Concurrently, the U.S. officially withdrew from the World Health Organization at the beginning of 2026. Regardless of where you stand on the politics, these are simply the current structural realities that health officials are navigating while trying to track outbreaks like the one on the Hondius.
Finally, Section 6, Blueprint for a Cure.
All right, let's pivot to some incredibly hopeful breakthroughs in molecular biology. Researchers at UT Austin recently used a cryo-electron microscope to take a highly detailed snapshot of the exact molecular machinery the Andes virus uses to break into our cells. It's this mushroom-shaped structure called the GN-GC tetramer, and they've created a 3D map of the killer's primary weapon. And they mapped it down to a resolution of 2.3 angstroms. To put that into perspective, that is mind-bogglingly tiny. We are literally talking about details the size of just a couple of individual atoms. By capturing the virus at this unprecedented level of atomic detail, scientists finally have a precise map of the enemy before it even fuses with a human cell. So, while this virus is a highly lethal killer, science is finally cornering it. Lead researcher Jason McClellan hit the nail on the head. Having this exact blueprint allows us to design highly targeted vaccines and therapies. In fact, they've already used this structural map to create a candidate that successfully triggered neutralizing antibodies in mice. That is a huge deal. Which leaves us with this final thought. With this molecular blueprint finally unlocked, are we actually on the verge of neutralizing one of nature's most elusive and deadly pathogens? The tragedy on the MV Hondius shows us exactly what's at stake, but the incredible work being done in labs around the world proves that we are fighting back, atom by atom, toward a future where a hantavirus outbreak is a curable event, not a death sentence. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found it as fascinating and informative as I did. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.